Good morning, folks. I have a little bit of a serious discussion. As most of you know, I drive a truck. Been driving a truck for going a little over 22 years. And I'm not talking a pickup truck, I drive a Freightliner Columbia. Okay? Big truck. And in the last 5 years, I've seen a very alarming trend. Now, how do I put this without sounding racist, right? There are a lot of people driving trucks on U.S. highways that are not American citizens. And they come from all over the world, okay? They cannot speak, read, or write in English. Now, not all of these drivers are illegals. Um, and some of these drivers, kudos to them, because you got to put yourself in their shoes. They left their country where they could speak the language fluently, and they came here to a country where they did not know the language. So they've learned the language, right? So those drivers are not who I'm addressing. Okay? I want to be very clear that those drivers have gone after the American dream, and they have learned English and become a contributing factor to the United States, okay? Now, up until about 5 years ago, you see uh, these immigrant drivers not as frequently as you see them now, okay? Um, and the alarming trend, I'm sure all of you have heard about accidents where the guy was drinking, he wasn't able to speak English, he ran into parked cars, he ran over people. I mean, this is happening, right? This is happening. Now, up until about 5 years ago, if you were an individual who wanted to cut ties with your past and you wanted to do something to get away from where you were at, which is basically what I did, right? I would have recommended trucking, okay? Because in trucking, what happens is uh, you're in the truck. So when holidays run around, when kids' birthday parties run around, when uh, all of these societal norms that we have come around, you're in the truck. Okay? So eventually, the people that you call friends will fall off the map, so to say. Because, you're running rotating shifts, depending on the loads. Uh, you're under massive stress, right? From dispatch, DOT, um, the the rules, the rules. I mean, we have a rule book like this, okay, that we have to follow. We have so many hours we can work in a day, right? Um, and we have a lot of time. Our schedules on pickup and delivery of loads are just ridiculous. Okay, they're just ridiculous. So you have to run your butt off to make the loads. Okay. Now, across the United States, there are areas that trucks cannot go. Okay. And if you can't read the signs, that truck is going to be there. Now, like I said, I'm trying very hard not to come off as being racist, okay? Because I'm not. Uh, but a lot of these drivers that we have out here now, they are not trying to integrate into America. They do not care about America. The only thing they care about is sending money home, which I get that, right? You want to take care of your family. I get that. But the issue we have, and I saw this the other day and I couldn't believe it. The issue we have is these individuals are driving hazardous material loads. Now, I want that to sink in a little bit. Imagine a driver pulling 45,000 pounds of fuel and they can't speak English. They can't read the road signs. This should never happen. That's a bomb going down the highway. I want that to sink in. This is what's happening. And I hope, I really, really hope that this gets upstairs, so to speak, to the people in government and to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. I really hope you pay attention to what I'm saying. These drivers are not cleared to not be terrorists. They're not cleared. They are driving under non-domicile CDLs, which means their CDL is not American. And they're on our roads. They're on our roads. That's a very dangerous situation. Especially when you consider some of the freight that we carry. Okay? Since they don't read and write English, and this is what I saw. I saw a driver go past me with a dry van, 53-foot dry van, here in Hampton Roads, with the following two placards on it: oxygen and flammable. That should never happen. That's a bomb. One accident, and that will take out a good mile to 2 miles. Okay. Um. Now I have a hazardous material endorsement, and I'm not perfect at it. I always have to go back to the book whenever I haul something. Okay. I always have to go back to the book. I have to double check because I'm not good at it, right? Because I don't haul it that often. But I know that you don't put a gas, an airborne gas, with, let's say, fuel. You, you, you don't do that because one spark and boom, right? So I saw this and I'm like, what in the hell? Now, the individual driving the truck was an immigrant. Now, whether or not they were legal or illegal, I don't know. But the fact that this is happening on our highways and on our city streets, that's very dangerous. Now, the question I have is, how did they get past all the scale houses? How did they get past all the DOT running around in Hampton Roads to be where I saw them? So, one of the rules that's in the book, specifically for CDLs, says that you have to be able to read and write and speak English. And that rule is not being enforced. If you go to any truck stop nowadays, you're going to find all these immigrants everywhere, and no English is being spoken. They can't back. They have no clue about our rules on the highway. And that's part of the reason why accidents have increased. Right? I'm sure you've seen it on the news or heard about, oh, this truck got stuck under a low bridge. Well, the reason why is they have no clue about the fact that, their truck is 13.6, right? 13 foot 6 inches. And the bridge they're coming up on is 9 foot 2 inches. It's not going to fit. But they can't read that sign. So they're going to hit it. Now, that's just a small problem, right? Something like that. The other issue is they do not follow the rules on drugs and alcohol. Because guess what? They don't read or speak English. So therefore, they haven't read the book. Therefore, their training, they haven't gone through a CDL school, right? They've come over on like a work visa and got a non-domicile CDL because they had a CDL in, let's say, Pakistan. And they come over here and they get a CDL here without going through any type of training. And these companies are hiring them and putting them into a $146,000 vehicle that can weigh up to 80,000 pounds, and they shove them out on the highway with no training. Um, I think I can definitively say that that's part of the reason why accidents have increased with big trucks. Okay. Um, it's one of the issues. The other issue is the training nowadays sucks, right? They're popping them out like rabbits. They popping drivers out like rabbits, because quite honestly, these mega carriers, they do not care about you as a person. In fact, when you start driving for some of these mega carriers, you become a truck number. They don't want to know your name. They want to know your truck number, right? They don't care if you don't feel well. They don't care if you're tired. Hey, the ELD, electronic login device, for those who don't know, says that you're able to drive. Why ain't you driving? Okay? And they are paying these individuals half of what a normal driver in the United States would make. In other words, they'll tell them, oh, we'll pay you 52 cents a mile, right? And then they cut the miles. And they do this legally. This is going to shock you, right? They do this legally. Okay, they use zip code to zip code, or they use what we call airplane miles, uh, so that 2,500 mile run becomes, 1,900 miles. So they just made 600 miles off of you for free. Now that's been going on for years. Okay, we in the trucking industry, we know this, right? Those of us who've been driving for a while know this, right? Um, and I'm not even going to go on the owner operator side where we have all the brokerage fees and all that crap, right? Because that's a scam too, right? But the issue that we have right now, I'm just going to tell you honestly, the trucking industry is cutthroat. Okay? It's cutthroat. Because you've got all of these illegal immigrants driving trucks, and the companies are making bank on them, so they're hiring more and more of them, right? Because they want to make bank, right? It's all about the money, of course. While the drivers that are consistent and courteous are being pushed out of the industry. Now, I'm telling you this because, like I said, I couldn't believe what I saw this week. I couldn't believe it, right? Um, this is an issue, folks, and quite honestly, if I was in my vehicle, my personal vehicle, I would stay as far away from a big truck as you can get. It's become that bad. They swerve in the lanes. They don't use flashers. They just make sudden moves. I've seen them go across 2 lanes of traffic to hit an exit. Um, they don't care, right? They don't care. I've seen trucks driving down the highway with stuff falling off of them because the loads are not strapped right. They're not chained down. Uh, the trailer doors are not closed. right? I'm sure you've seen them, box trucks, especially. The back door be wide open. Stuff falling out going down the highway. They don't care. It's not theirs. Um, Cement trucks, right? They're driving cement trucks. They don't properly close the valves. Next thing you know, you got cement all over the highway. This happened in Hampton Roads, actually, not too long ago. Uh, Something needs to be done. We have rules on the books that are not being enforced. Those rules need to be enforced. Like I said, I'm not trying to sound racist here, but my children are driving vehicles on the highway. My nieces, my nephews are on the highway. God forbid they got into an accident with a big truck. Because the other thing is, I can guarantee you that these individuals, if they do get in an accident, they'll try to run. They'll try to run. Because number one, they're here illegally. And number two, they are more concerned about covering stuff up than they are about taking responsibility. Right? I'm sure all of you have gone through a truck stop and seen all the trash. You can smell the truck stop before you ever get into it because, you know, these guys are taking showers in the fuel island instead of actually going into the building and taking a shower in the actual shower room. They are throwing their trash in the parking lot. They are cleaning the trailers out in the fuel island. Um, it is mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling what's happening. Okay, um, all of these issues all stem from the fact that they do not care about this country at all. Okay, they do not have any type of respect for the environment. They have no respect for the American way of life. They hate it. They have no respect for the innocent motoring public out there. There is zero. They have none. Okay. Now, as a truck driver, I'm going to tell you, like I said, I've been driving a truck for a little over 22 years. And I still talk to the guy that trained me, right? Hey. And one of the things he taught me was when you get into that seat, never forget, never, ever, ever forget that you are sitting on a silver bullet. That if you lose your focus and your attention, be it to a camera or a phone or a phone call, you can kill everyone around you in a split second. You can kill you and you can kill everyone around you in a split second. Because you're talking 80,000 pounds. And lately, these shippers and receivers are shoving as much product as they can on these trailers to save on shipping cost. Even a penny right now is making and breaking some of these companies. So they're putting as much as they can on every trailer. So 90% of the trailers that you're hauling have 45,000 plus pounds of product in the trailer. Whether it be a 20-footer, a 40-footer, a 45, a 50-footer, a 53-footer, or a 57-footer. Yes, they have those. On the flatbeds, they are just shoving the stuff on the flatbeds without any respect for how it should be loaded. It'll be off to one side or the other side because these new flatbed drivers, they have not been taught how to properly chain down those loads. What they've been taught is throw a tarp over it. Nobody will notice. That's what they've been taught. These new drivers, they're not taught to pre-trip their trucks. So you'll see these trucks going down the highway with flat tires, and you're in a car and you see the tire's just flopping, right? Because it's done come off the rim, and it's just flopping back there. And it's tearing up all the brake chambers, and it's tearing up the brake lines, and you know, and they don't care. They don't care. They do not pre-trip their trucks because they don't know how to. That's also a requirement to get your CDL. And that has been suspended. You see these drivers trying to back into docks? Brand new drivers. I've run into them, and I'm going to throw some names out here. JB Hunt, Warner, Swift, Super Ego. They went through your schools. And you ask them, are you going to be able to get that in there, or you want me to put it in there for you? And they'll tell you flat out to your face. Straight to your face. Well, they didn't teach us how to back. They didn't teach you how to back. How are you going to pick up and deliver freight if you can't back? Now, flatbed drivers, y'all normally just pull in. But y'all still have to be able to back that spread axle, right? On occasion. And kudos to y'all, because I could not do your job. It's too physically demanding for me. I'm not saying to change the rules. What I'm saying is enforce the rules that are on the books. The rules are there. The rules were written for a reason. Right? It's written from years of other drivers putting in information to the FMCSA, putting in information to DOT, and that's why the rules were written. Because, you know, there's always that one person, right? That one stupid individual that screws it up for everybody else, right? There's always that one. To my fellow drivers, slow down. Be respectful. Be courteous. If you see one of these drivers that are brand new, just straight out of school, and you see them having an issue backing into a parking spot or a dock, take the time to go over and ask if you can give them assistance. Now, some of these companies have said you can't do that. I understand. I do. It's an insurance issue. But personally, if I saw somebody trying to back a truck in beside me in a parking spot and I notice that they have no clue what they're doing, I'm going to protect my truck, right? I'm going to protect my truck and my freight because if they're not taught how to back, you wonder why we have so many accidents in truck stops now? You wonder why they don't know to go park in a parking spot and while they're just pulled off to the side? That's why. We can do better, folks. To get a CDL, you have to be able to do a pre-trip. You have to be able to maneuver that vehicle, right? Straight line back, 45 back, 90-degree back. Okay? Parallel parking, I had to do parallel parking with a big truck. I've never used it since. If you had me do a parallel park now, I'd probably fail. Because I've never used it, right? And the old adage is if you don't use it, you lose it, right? You have to be able to read, write, and speak English. Now, I understand, I do, I understand that uh, you're from other countries. I get this, right? Like I said, kudos to you for coming here to a nation that you do not know the native language, right? It's nothing against you. But to have a CDL, you have to be able to read, write, and speak English. The reason for that is the road signs. The reason for that is you go into a shipper receiver, they don't speak your language, they speak English. Reason for that is the bill of ladings that you get, they're not written in Spanish, they're not written in Iraqi, they're not written in Haiti, they're written in English. English. And you have to be able to read that to know what you're hauling. Because sometimes what you're hauling is hazmat. Okay? And if you don't have the hazmat endorsement, you can't haul it. And if you don't know that and you can't read the English that's on that paper, on that bill of lading, you're going to go down the road with it without it placarded or properly secured, and God forbid you get in an accident. Because now they're going to look at your bill of lading, and now you have a hazmat situation. And now you as a driver who hauled that load illegally are going to jail. That's another thing that uh, is happening. You know, these people, they get into these accidents and they go to jail and then they get released. You just killed 12 people. You just killed 12 people. And they release you and put you back in a truck. What the hell is that? What what the hell is that? So yeah, I'm a little upset and I'm going on a little bit of a rant because I want our congressmen, our senators, I want our representatives, right? I want our police officers, I want our DOT officers to enforce the freaking law. That's what you are supposed to be doing. Not a slap on the wrist and go. How many people got to die before you start enforcing the rules? How many people's lives get totally destroyed before you start enforcing the rules? Seriously. This is where we're at. Now, I have no issue with people coming here. Okay? My family immigrated here years ago, right? I'm talking in the 1400s. This is when my family first started coming here. Right? And when we came here, we didn't speak English. We had to learn it. Just like the immigrants that are coming here today. But here's the kudos. My family came here legally. It's a serious issue and it needs to be addressed. And the rules are there, but they're not being enforced. And we need to enforce them. You know, we've come to that point where, you know, giving them a misdemeanor or letting them use a translator on the phone or things of this nature, it's no longer viable, right? That's not viable anymore. And we see that by the increase in accidents. So the rules that are there need to be enforced. And if you run into a driver who cannot read, write, or speak English, no speaking English, right? No comprende, right? Nichts verstehen, right? They need to be put out of service. And the truck impounded until a driver who can read, write, and speak English gets sent to the truck. I hate to say that, but that needs to happen. That needs to happen. So that's my rant. That's my rant for today and this week, because it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and I think all of us older drivers see it, and we're screaming about it, and no one's listening. No one's listening, right? I just, I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted. I'm just flabbergasted that, you know, 22 years I've been following the rules. And now these companies are not following the rules. and they need to be held accountable. And I have nothing against any of them. I really don't. I get it. You want to make money. I get it. And you can pay these drivers less than you can pay me, right? I get it. Hell, if it wasn't for Swift Transportation, I wouldn't be a driver now. I get it. Right? I do get it. But the rules are there for safety. Because it's not just the driver's life that's at risk. It's that innocent child sitting in the back seat of that pickup or the back seat of that car that truck just ran over and killed the entire family. Yeah. Yeah. That's what is at stake. Bicycle.